sent after you. So it sounds bonkers, and I'm excited
Interesting.
to see what that looks like. But no, I'm trying to think what I've seen already this week. Just watching a lot of like It's Always Sunny, and just catching up on shows that pass the time, as it were.
Awesome.
What about you,
We're
Sam?
actually live now
Oh,
because
good.
yeah, because I had it scheduled for 7:30, but you have to like press live. So we're live now, everyone. So
That's
whoever's
good.
watching, here you are now. Yeah, so Jackson said he's going to be watching Lion. What did you say it's called? Lion
Tiger King. Tiger King on Netflix.
Tiger King. My bad. Lions and Tigers. Uh, but I did see one thing yesterday, and it
Oh
was
yeah.
very interesting. It's called The Platform. It's a Spanish film, and I've been hearing about it forever. And it's on Netflix, and they bought the rights to it, but it's fully in Spanish. But what Netflix tries to do, they have it already. They convert it to American already. They dub it. Like they don't give you a choice to put it in like in English. They are automatically put it in English, but it's a Spanish film and it's like
Hmm.
acted in Spanish. And like I started watching the first 3 minutes, and I'm like, this isn't right because it's supposed to be in Spanish, and that's how I would like to watch it. I want it with subtitles, so that's what I did. And it's a very interesting sci-fi film. The Platform, they send. It's kind of like a prison. There's two people in each cell, and it's a vertical prison. There's hundreds of floors. You find out later in the film how many there actually are. But what happens is the person in floor one, they get food sent down to them first, and as it goes on, everyone has to eat as much food like as they can. But every month the floors like shuffle. So one month you could be on floor one and eat like a king and gorge whole month long. But the last month you could be on floor 50 and there's 50 people, there's 100 people eating ahead of you, and they eat everything all as much as they want. So it's a very interesting film. It's only like 93 minutes, so I very much recommend this one, and especially for I don't know, just in this time in particular, as we're going on. But I'll try to see what Durgee's doing. That's it. I would put that on your list uh, if
That's
you've
fascinating. Yeah.
interested. It's yeah. It's I don't know if I gave the synopsis justice, but I'm still trying to sit, think about my thoughts about the film and try to write a good review about the film.
I
But
always I always love interesting takes on like just like weird social hierarchy stuff, like futuristic. You know what I mean? Like Snowpiercer did
yeah,
that interestingly.
yeah,
That's the one that
yeah.
comes to
It's
mind.
I remind me a lot of Snowpiercer.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, we'll have to try that one out. I'll watch the like the pre-roll on Netflix and see if it
Definitely.
if it looks like my cup of tea. But yeah,
Yeah,
I would say
well, I don't know if it would be your cup of tea. There's a bit of gore in it because they're fighting for their
oh
lives in
yeah.
some parts of it.
Well,
But
look, I
if
can
you like
handle a little
Snowpiercer, here you
gore.
go.
Sometimes it's the straight horror films that don't really work for me, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
I would say we should talk about the box office, but as you've put so interestingly in our show notes, you have written box office none underscore
Yeah.
italicized,
That's
which
what I
is,
was
I
thinking. There
mean,
might be some small theaters still open, like a bit of Rebels going on, but
right.
as far as I know, officially there are none.
No,
So
even like specialized theaters like the Alamo Draft House and the Nightlight Cinema here in Akron. I mean, theaters across the country are closed, like no matter what. So yeah,
insane.
truly box office none, and we'll start to see the repercussions of that pretty soon here. But yeah, just about everything's been pushed back, so it's not hard to believe because there's no movies to screen.
What have you guys been watching? There's two people watching right now. Tell us what you've been watching in the comments if you can. We'll talk about it, but hopefully Durgy will join us in a second. But yeah, it's insane. Theaters are dead. There's nothing going on really. Uh, the first film in July actually was pushed back by Universal, and do you know what that was, Jackson?
No, I don't. Which one was that?
Minions 2. The Rock
Oh,
Drew or
I did
something.
see. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know that
that's the
was the
first
July
one.
release.
Yeah, yeah, that was the first July film. That's crazy to think already that far ahead, but
It's crazy to see that they're planning that far. I mean, no one really knows how long this thing's going to last. So we might have a while here where we might have to survive on Netflix alone. Obviously, there's bigger things to worry about, but you know, we'll have to keep our entertainment coming. Good thing. Good, I will say, out of all the eras of entertainment for this to occur, the streaming age seems to be the perfect fit because we all have,
Definitely.
it may, like we've talked about ad nauseum. This will probably make streaming more of an essential rather than an option. And well, I think we'll see that pretty soon here. But yeah, if you're watching, I'd love to have some recommendations. So let me know what you've been watching. I'll assume it's through streaming services, whether it's a new release or something older that you just picked up. But yeah, I'd love to check it out. I see Zach just put in Peaky Blinders. Yeah, I've
Peaky
heard of.
Blinders. I've never personally watched it, but have you
I
have you, Jackson?
I have seen it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't.
okay.
What do you think, Zach? I mean, do you think it's an easy show to get into? Because I watched a couple episodes, but it's one of those that never really, you know, how much time do you think I have to invest to be able to make that one, to really get into it? Because the first episode was amazing. I think it was
Yeah,
great,
that's what I hear.
but
That's
I don't know.
I've committed
Maybe it
with
just
you.
didn't quite hook me. I don't know.
That's the last TV show I can really remember fully watching is Paul Rudd's Weird Show, but he just said it's hard. It's hard. Tom Hardy is in it. It
Yeah.
takes a couple of episodes. Yeah, I'm sure.
Well,
Uh,
we have a lot of
you have
time
some
on our
great
hands. Maybe
actors.
I'll get. Yeah, that was the one with Cillian Murphy, right? Right in my
Yeah, Killian.
Killian
You can
Murphy.
never pronounce anything,
I can't
Jackson.
do that one. I can't do
Sorsha.
Saoirse Ronan. Yeah,
What's her name for you? What do you call her?
Cerise. Yeah,
Cerise. I love that. Oh my gosh.
not even close.
Oh, oh, well, oh well, Durgy will join us in a bit, but we'll jump into our first topic, and just like how we're talking about, U.S. theaters, they're struggling right now, and what they're trying to do is ask Congress for emergency bailout because, like we were talking behind the scenes, Jackson, we think some theaters will probably close. It might not ever open up again because, like you said, Alamo Drafthouse. Those are some specialty theaters in Los Angeles. There's some specialty theaters in Kent, like where we go to school. But all these small, like mom and pop theaters, I don't really see how they're going to open up again. Uh, because it was mandated by a lot of states to close schools, offices, bars, restaurants, movie theaters. So, and they didn't have a choice to close, and they rely on the concessions, all of that. And without that, we don't see them opening up at any time soon. Uh, yeah, in the 2020 box office itself, like Hollywood's going to lose billions, the theaters themselves are going to lose billions, and around the National Association of Theater Owners and its 150,000 employees, they're all out of jobs and asking for a bailout right now.
Yeah,
And NATO had this to say this Wednesday about the theater business. And they said the business model of the movie theater industry is uniquely vulnerable to the present crisis. As we confront this revolving and unprecedented period, we call on Congress and the administration to ensure that America movie theater industry and its tens of thousands of employees across the country can remain resilient. It's hard to remain like just on that comment alone, Jackson. It's hard to remain resilient. They're just out of a job. There's not much to do. It's not like you can work and improve in the meantime. You're just a sitting duck right now,
yeah.
unless you're. Yeah. What do you
Well,
think?
I mean, they're totally right. Like theaters are uniquely positioned where they can't do any sort of business right now. The entertainment industry as a whole can still function because we still have ways to consume content, but movie theaters inherently are risks for the way this virus is spread. So we will see closures for a long time. And a lot of theaters who already were struggling with declining revenue over the last couple of years, they're probably going to shut their doors for good. And I wouldn't be surprised if, first it'll be the theaters that aren't part of a chain or that are most likely to go out of business first.
Yeah.
But, it'll be a shame because I think along with the chain theaters like the Cinemarks and the AMC's, we're also going to see a lot of theaters that are specialized, that are really, interesting experiences, like Nightlight Cinemas for indie films, or the Alamo Draft House, which is kind of like this weird combo of a restaurant mixed with a movie theater sort of thing. But man, it's really going to be tough. I think the only theaters that could really weather this and still function as in the same capacity that they were, I mentioned this to you, would probably be IMAX theaters, and I can't remember what else I said. I think it was just IMAX theaters, and then other specialty theaters will probably be the only ones to survive after all this is done. That's my prediction anyway. I don't really know how well equipped big chains are for this. How long
Yeah.
Cinemark can hold out without a government bailout.
And we kind of thought this would happen just progressively as we go through the years.
Mm-hmm.
But this is really a kick, like to push it along like a decade in advance. Because I thought this would happen within the next 20 years, but this could really speed up the process of killing those smaller theaters and only having those specialty theaters like Alamo Draft House. That's just the one I know off by hand, but there's a bunch of small, like artsy theaters that
Yeah.
are going to stay because they have an audience that will keep them in business. But I wonder how it's going to stay.
I think the
As we
government
know
will
it.
give some support, but I don't think it'll be enough, really. I mean, it's really tragic. But like you said, like they're already on their last leg as a business model, and then this virus comes in and just kicks their legs out from under them. It's going to be a really interesting shift in entertainment. I think it's going to be one that we're talking about for decades, just because of how striking it is. I mean, no theater business is being done. That is unprecedented. There has never been a week in human history since movie theaters began where no business has been done. I think theaters closed for 9/11. I think some theaters have closed during wartime, but nationally, for there to be no theater revenue, I mean, not only is this the worst time for it, but it's never happened before. I think this
Yeah,
is
and there's
really crazy.
nothing to compare it to really. This is I don't know if it's once in a lifetime in my lifetime, but it's once in other older generations' lifetimes, and they don't know how to deal with it because this is a precedent and it's setting a lot of new ground that we haven't walked in yet. And someone who's trying to uh, help the theaters in this time and speak for them is Christopher Nolan, the acclaimed director, writer of many films like The Prestige, Interstellar, uh, Inception, the Dark Knight trilogy, so on and so forth. He is trying to make clear in a piece that he wrote in the Washington Journal that the film industry is made up of countless individuals well outside of the spotlight, like the theater chains who are struggling right now and are on their last breath and nearly dying. He in the article, a few quotes that he had is quote, "When people think about movies, their mind first goes to the stars, the studios, the glamour. But the movie business is about everybody. The people working the concession stands, running their equipment, taking tickets, booking movies, selling advertising, and cleaning bathrooms in the local theaters. Regular people, many paid hourly wages rather than a salary, earn a living running the most affordable and democratic of our community gathering places." And he goes on and says, "I hope that people are seeing our exhibition community for what it really is, a vital part of our social life, providing jobs for many and entertainment for all. As a filmmaker, my work can never be complete without those workers and the audiences they welcome." So in this piece, he just really highlights the people that aren't really uh, shown the support that the people like Christopher Nolan are given. But it seems like he realizes that these people are needed for him to succeed and for his films. And without them, he wouldn't be anywhere really, unless the streaming came on 20 years before it did. And it's nice to see that he understands that and he doesn't take it for granted as I usually thought that someone like him would.
Yeah,
But and
you'd think
he's
so.
showing his support, and hopefully more some government relief does come to the theaters. So uh, all the all the ones around me, at least right now, there's some chains, of course, but there are some small theaters that I thought they were going to die a long time ago, but I think they're going to die from this. Like, do you know any like that grew up around Jackson theaters,
Well,
like
to be
small
honest,
time?
most of the small time ones around the area in Pittsburgh I grew up in already closed down by the time I left for college. So I think that I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't as many of those kind of like mom and pop brick and mortar theaters as people think that are still around. You know, they've been closing for a decade now, and I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't that many left. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's really the people you don't really think about in the movie industry who are going to get hit the hardest by this. I mean, obviously Christopher Nolan and his team are going to be fine, but the people making the movies and the people on the distribution end who clean the theaters, run the concession stand, that's a lot of workers, and that's tough. So we'll have to see if a bailout comes through. I hope it'll help a little bit, but I don't think it'll change the trajectory of theaters overall. I think it'll be fascinating to see that what audiences will want once this whole thing is over. I mean, will they return to theaters in the same way they did, or will they accept streaming as the new normal and just kind of stick with that? I wouldn't be surprised if it's the latter and if we never really see theaters recover from this. But it's a shame, and I'm glad to see Christopher Nolan taking some steps. And like you said, I hope other people step up to help and to raise awareness because that's a big industry that's being hit by this. I mean, obviously everyone's being affected.
Do you think anything can save those small theaters other than like a huge, massive uh, incentive from the government? Do you think
It would
there's anything possible?
it would just have to be money, and you'd have to hope that people come back once this whole thing is over. And that's the other
In
hard part.
droves, like a big
Yeah.
time comeback.
I mean, think about it, Sam. I mean, do you think, let's say a month from now, the government announces, hey, coronavirus is, we've hit our peak already. You know, I don't know what the current timeline is. It's probably more than a month, but let's just say we hit our peak. We start on the decline. The government says, hey, social distancing, you should still observe it, but now it's okay for businesses to reopen and you to congregate again. I don't really see. I mean, would you go back to the theater right away? We might be a unique
I
example.
will. Yeah, I
Of
was gonna
course you
go
would,
right
Sam.
before it closed because I was super I was really excited to like go say like I was there right before it
Yeah,
closed,
right
and
before.
I forget what came out. I think maybe yeah, Bloodshot did come out like the weekend that everything closed. I think it
Yep.
was Bloodshot. Uh, I don't know if it
I'd
was
have to look back at our
Onward.
old show notes. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
it might have been Onward. Onward was in
Onward
its
was in
second
its
week
second
then.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
But
think
yeah, I wanted to
Bloodshot
see
was the
Onward.
only huge one that released besides maybe, oh gosh, was it that Ben Affleck movie?
I think
The
that was the same weekend as Onward, I think.
I
But
think
there's
you're
that
right.
Christian one, I think.
Yeah, it was just a
I think
Christian movie and Bloodshot, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. So it was a nice matchup, nice complementary films at that time, but nothing. The Christian film did do good, like you said, but
Yeah, that's
for
true.
its first weekend.
Yeah.
Uh, but all those films are going to come out on VOD now, so that's why I was disappointed that I didn't see Onward. But I can just pay $20 and you can see it with 20 people, and you get that's a better deal than if you just went to the theater itself. So
Yeah, that's the thing is, yeah, I just don't see theaters recovering even with a bailout, even with a massive government bailout. People will start to shift their minds towards streaming even more. Think about it. Older adults or people who are reluctant to get streaming. That's probably what they're getting now. Their kids or their friends have probably hooked them up with a Netflix subscription and been like, "Hey, just wait this whole thing out." The people who are already keeping the theaters alive are probably becoming more accustomed to streaming now. I don't see theaters recovering, especially not little ones. It's a shame, but I think that's the way we're going to end up going.
yeah, what do you guys think of the comments? Do you think that the theaters will recover? Well, let us know, uh, and we'll discuss it
Yeah,
for a
sorry
second.
to give like a downer moment. Like I don't mean to be like all is lost. Maybe they will recover, but I just see it because I'm a big fan of
Realistically,
realistically, I'm a huge fan of the streaming model, and I think it just makes sense for where we are in society and how we consume entertainment. I don't think theaters will go away entirely. I think in the same way that music has vinyl and music has, that's a bad example, but there are other ways to consume the medium. And I think going to a theater to see a film will always be something that's an option. But I just think instead of having 100 theaters in a state, you're probably going to have like 10 or maybe 5. And it's a special thing to go to a theater. It's like something you do if you're really into experiencing movies that way. But I think otherwise, most people are just going to experience it in their homes for the most part.
Yeah.
It'll
Yeah,
be
a
interesting to
longtime
see.
fan. Yeah,
Yeah, it'll be
a
weird to see
longtime
what this
fan.
does to
Sorry.
like event movies. What do you think, Sam? Like,
Yeah, event movies, I think they'll always be in theaters. Like your big time action films, like Marvel films and stuff like that. Your Mission Possibles, they'll always be there. They're not going anywhere. But your the way back, starring Ben Affleck, I could see that easily being a Netflix exclusive film. Just buy the rights. That would get me on Netflix to watch that. If I'm always gonna have a subscription, so that's no issue. But that would get me a view. But I like Ben Affleck. I enjoy stuff, but that's how it's been going. But I just see this being the real nail in the coffin for these small time theaters. And this is going to kick it in full gear now. Just these big time action films being released in theaters, unless you're the Alamo Drafthouse or these small specialty theaters releasing the artsy films like Midsummer, uh, these offbeat genre films. But our longtime fan says if they do, Jonathan Sowell, he's been a longtime fan. He says if they do the theaters, it will be a slow recovery. Like we said, that's what we thought too. Uh, I agree with that. Uh, if it does happen, it'll be a slow recovery. And uh, Zach Tischer, who's also listening right now, he says there will probably only be a select few open, just like Jackson said. So it seems like whoever's listening agrees right now with what we're saying. If anyone disagrees, let us know because we'd love to talk to you. But we'll jump into our next subject right now, and that is about Joker apparently almost released online, not in theaters, due to the backlash.
how about
Uh,
that?
and we'll talk about the validity of this as the story progresses, but uh, I'm kind of iffy. I'm in the mid zone, as we say, at this point, but Universal has taken the step of dropping The Hunt, The Invisible Man, and Emma early as coronavirus related closings prematurely ended their theatrical runs. And that's all following coronavirus. And Warner Brothers is following suit with Birds of Prey, Ben Affleck's A Way Back, like we said, with the theaters closing. But Warner Brothers is reportedly considering even more drastic measures and releasing the blockbuster event film Wonder Woman 1984 online. And I'm guessing that would be on HBO Max, the streaming service for Warner Brothers. But how does this relate to Joker almost releasing online? This is, in my mind, this is a direct contrast to why Joker was nearly only released on like through a streaming service, and Wonder Woman almost released online due to the new one that was supposed to release this summer. There's no confirmed delay cancellation yet, but the reason why it parallels is because Wonder Woman 1984 was supposed to release. It's apparently delayed because of the coronavirus, but Joker is because of the controversy behind it and just the contrasting reasons. But we've talked about all the controversy on the previous episodes. On The funny thing is, a side note, this is episode 25 of Film Week, so congrats to everyone who's worked on it.
Oh, check it out.
Thank you. Yeah,
25.
25. Yeah,
How about that?
there's no special things for 25, but
No, it's like
how many hours? So 2 hours, almost 50 hours of Film Week. So
that's
I
crazy. That's
yeah,
more
that's
than two
insane.
days of straight talking about movies. That's a lot.
I can't believe that. But
Yeah.
here we are, and back to the Joker talk. I'm sorry, everyone, for getting distracted, but
No, that's an important
uh,
distraction. What are you talking about?
yeah, Joker. We know all the controversy behind it. All the people thought there might be violence at movie theaters because of it. All the violence in the film,
Yeah, I remember all that
but
leading up to it.
Warner Brothers did make the correct decision financially to release it in theaters because it's the highest grossing rated R film of all time, grossing over $1 billion, a ton of awards. Do you believe that this was ever true? That it could have been released online only? Joker, Jackson.
I'd love to hear in the chat what they think, but like they probably had a meeting about it. You always do when it comes to things like this, where you're concerned about. Obviously, the biggest concern is violence as a result of the theater being screened. I mean, it's easy in hindsight to say that they made the right decision because it made all of its money and there was no incident that resulted of it. It was very. Thank you, Austin. Congrats, quarter century. Not quite, but yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's easy in hindsight to say nothing happened, so it was the correct decision. But I was definitely nervous leading up, thinking that, somebody somewhere could use this as a way to, people. We see this kind of thing happen in the United States all the time in another country. So you always worry about security and people's safety. But,
Yeah,
you know, eh, looking back on it, it all kind of seemed a little overhyped. It seemed like people were using Joker. It's like whenever any violent media comes out, whether it's video games are pretty notorious for that. It's not the media that causes people to, really seriously
the
think
Joker person.
violent thoughts. Yeah, it's just
I'm trying to show off my poster, but yeah, that's the Joker poster. If anyone forgot what Joker was, but there it is.
but basically, yeah, it's just
Yeah,
people, people treat media as a catalyst to violence, and I don't see it that way. I see it as something where somebody who already has violent tendencies may use that as an excuse or maybe as an inspiration, but not necessarily the catalyst to, their underlying mental health issues, as it were. But
definitely.
Joker was a huge success. And you're right; these are two very different reasons to release a Warner Brothers film online. One is for controversy, and one is for public. Well, both are for safety in a way, but I mean, I think releasing Wonder Woman in theaters would be successful, but I don't think that it's a mistake to release it online. I mean, think about it. If you guys in the chat, let's say you get a notification on your phone in June that says, "Hey, if you spend, how much is an HBO Max subscription? Is it?"
It's going to be pricey compared to other streaming services. I'm saying in my mind, like I think it was $15.99, but I could be off.
I would pay $16 to watch Wonder Woman in my house. Other people might feel differently, but if I get a couple friends together, I put it on the screen. I agree that it might not be the best way to view the movie. Wonder Woman is obviously a high budget, high action experience. I think it would be more fun to see it in a theater, and I really love the theater experience. But I don't think it detracts from what the film is, and I think that it could still be successful in that model. I wouldn't be surprised if the week after we see headlines that says, Wonder Woman broke HBO Max streaming records. I that wouldn't be out of the realm of
Yeah,
possibility.
and if you're going to launch HBO Max with like saying Wonder Woman 1984, is there like a launch title?
Hmm.
Like just like how new consoles like the new Xbox consoles releasing this Christmas. It's just like a launch title. Like Halo is your launch title, Halo Infinite. This is your
Right.
launch title for HBO Max.
It would be a big
Wonder
one
Woman
too.
1984. And hell yeah, I do. I get it. And I'm sure they're going to give out a free months, free 30 days for HBO Max. Why not? Like I could see a bunch of people doing that just so you could get Wonder Woman 1984, and then you see all the other stuff they have. Some people will stick around, some people won't, but you'll get they'll get that initial number that they can brag about, saying, "Oh, we had 30 million people in our first week of watching." So, and that's what a bunch of people are going to say. And our viewer, Austin McColpin, just said, yeah, it is $15 for HBO Max. So it's I'm guessing it's $14.99 then, from what he just told us. And Jonathan says, there is no way to replicate the theater feeling. For me, at least, I'm not a fan of the theater experience. Like I just
I
I
think it
have my
depends.
I have my monitor right here. I always put my cover on it, but I love my monitor. It looks nice. I'm in my computer chair. I have my headphones. They're nice and comfy. I have it feels like a theater, but I'm not around the disgusting seats, the people on their phones. I'm just in my I love it right here. This is my perfect place to watch a film.
But I agree
And
with John. There
but
is a certain charm to it. You know, I'm sure you've had great theater experience. Oh, that was a nice can crack open sound effect right
Powered by
there.
LaCroix,
We're not
Film
sponsored.
Week,
I
soon
mean,
to be.
you got to think like, yeah, look, theaters have their flaws. The it's overpriced, sometimes it's overcrowded. You have to be with other people, which, you know, that has its ups and downs. But yeah, there really is nothing quite like that experience of getting in a room with, you know, 50 or 100 other people who are as excited to see this movie as you are. And we're talking about event movies here. I mean, I'm pretty sure we could replicate the experience of seeing, you know, Snow Dogs or whatever on you know,
Oh
at
yeah,
home just as well as in the theaters, because it's just going to be, you know, the theater's going to be empty anyway, let's be honest. But yeah, when it comes to event movies, that's hard. The only thing I could think of that could be similar is some sort of online solution that creates a streaming service where you are able to view the movie with other people. And the first thing that comes to mind is VR. You know, think about it.
yeah,
You do a VR chat room, everyone can see each other, everybody's in a theater, so to speak, and you're all watching the movie. Probably disorienting, probably more of a niche thing. I don't think everybody would want to do it, especially because not everybody has a VR headset. But as we transition away from the theater model, we have to ask the question, why is the theater so fun to go to? Why do we like it specifically? And I think it boils down to that feeling of togetherness, you know, that the excitement that you get from seeing a movie with people and seeing it on such a big screen. And if we're able to replicate that in another area, I think, as sad as I would be to see theaters go, I think there's other ways to get that experience. What do you think,
yeah.
Sam? Would you ever watch a movie in VR with other people?
If the VR, if VR technology gets cheaper, I would.
Yeah.
But as of right, my friend does have VR, and it would be fun to try it out. Like I think he has a HTC Vive. I think that's what it's called. And it would be fun to try. It's a gimmick, and gimmicks die soon. But if there's a way you could use that technology and use it, like implement it into the film experience, like I don't know, you have a 360 film. I'm sure they have stuff like that.
Yeah, which is probably nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of disorienting, but I'm sure there's a way you could change it and make it uh, practical for the modern, for the average film goer. But as of right now, there's nothing that the theater can do that my my monitor can't. So, and uh,
That's a
I
hot
have
take,
everything controlled
Sam.
here. Uh, I can make popcorn in my microwave if I wanted. Yeah, there's not much. Yeah, if I had to choose personally, I would always have it here, have my films here, and that's why I'm a big fan of streaming, just like you are at right now. So there's, and that's why I'm hoping a lot of these films, like, and we'll be talking about a film that just got transitioned to Netflix that was
Yeah.
supposed to release in April, and none of these other films like that we've talked about have, other than Onward will be doing that in like in April 3rd, I think. But all the other ones are going to VOD, so you'll have to pay like $20 for one film.
Mhm.
But all the other films, like yeah, so that's not directly to streaming. So uh, and Zach just said spending $19 a piece for a year-old movie is too much. Uh, $19 is for like films that just released like last week. That's what we're talking about. Like $19 for The Hunt or Onward That's how much it would cost to rent those for a few months. That's the films we're talking about, not like the films that released last year, like Avengers Endgame or anything like that.
Right.
And what did Austin? Oh no, never mind. Austin said you can watch at home with friends, but it is much less convenient when you need a host. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess so. When you
Yeah, I
have to
mean,
have
look,
someone
it's
come
not a
over.
one. It's not a one-to-one solution. No, certainly.
Yeah,
You're there. John was totally right. There isn't a way to perfectly replicate that theater feeling. It's watching at home and stuff. It's just different. But
yeah,
it's not about trying to perfectly replicate what came before. It's about taking the main things we got out of that experience and transitioning it to something else. And if the things you liked most were, you know, seeing a film in the best quality possible, that's something that you can find at home with the right amount of money, which not everybody has. But there are ways to get around those experiences. It's about finding something that works for the general public. Streaming seems to be working, so finding a way where people can stream but still get some semblance of, we're trying to fix the problem of an event movie, not of seeing movies in general, because we've
yeah.
already seen that some people do choose streaming over the theater experience. But when it comes to the general public for event movies, most people like to see those in the theaters, and that's the biggest thing we're losing if those go away.
So my comment right now to you, Jackson, and to everyone else watching is if Wonder Woman 1984 was released immediately on HBO Max, would it get you to sign up and pay that $15 like Austin told us? Because like just like $15, if you can watch it as many times as you want, you'll have all access to it. And I'm sure HBO Max, they have tons of other content. Warner Brothers, next to Disney, I'd say they're the next in line for like that. They make the most stuff each year, I'd say. They probably take up the second highest percentage of the box office, I'd say. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's true. Yeah. With they own DC, they own a bunch of other franchises. So and the Harry Potter, Wizarding World, they own that. So I'd say Warner Brothers. Uh, yeah, Austin says yes, he'd split it with friends. So I'm guessing he'd do the sharing method, just like
Mhm.
everyone else does.
Yeah, everyone
I
pitch in like
respect that.
$4, and then yeah, again, not a perfect one-to-one experience, but at least you're with your friends, which is one of the main reasons you go to the theater, is so everyone can see it together.
Definitely. And Zach brings up a good topic, and that's Quibi, like we've been talking about. Was it our no, it was our second to last show when we brought up and we talked about Quibi for a while in the studio. But
Well, I mean, we
Quibi,
talked about it on and on
yeah,
every
we've talked about it on and
episode.
off.
Yeah,
But Quibi is releasing very soon. I think it's shoot, I forget when exactly,
it's
but it's
April.
within
Yeah,
it's April. It's like early April, and they're advertising hard right now on YouTube. At least on YouTube, I've been getting a bunch of ads for
A-
Quibi.
April 6th, day before my
April
birthday.
6th.
So Quibi's my
Nice. So
my
April
birthday
7th for you,
present.
Jackson.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, you can get that free trial. It's like a 90-day free trial, I think.
Yeah, which is
It's
nuts. I mean,
yeah,
that's
that's a long
crazy.
time.
To
Yeah.
think that it's a I mean, you're never going to have more subscribers. Well, I don't know, that's not true, but the biggest surge in subscribers is probably going to be right at the start. So you'd think they'd want to, make people pay the $3 or whatever so that they could get all of their money up front. But they seem to really think that people will stick around after the 3 months. They seem very confident, and I'm really excited to see what it does to the landscape. Without the coronavirus issues happening, I think it was already going to be a really interesting player. Maybe not on competition with Netflix because I think they're going for different things.
Yeah.
Netflix is they both create original content, but Quibi has a specific device in mind, whereas Netflix can be viewed anywhere. That's the whole idea. Netflix you can have, in the car or on your phone. I think what Quibi's trying to do is make it your go-to, mobile on the go sort of thing. That seems what their marketing is catering towards. So Netflix seems to be like what you watch at home when you get off of work, but Quibi's maybe what you watch when you're waiting for the bus to take you home. So I
Yeah.
think it'll be cool to see. But yeah, I think it'll be a success, especially with this coronavirus thing going on, I think everyone's going to try it out. I wouldn't be shocked. And if they have
I,
some good
they
content,
couldn't pray for anything better right now.
I know,
I Kobe has it perfect. They're so lucky. I can't believe it. But yeah,
nuts.
if they have good content, we talked about what content they're exactly gonna have, but it's offbeat stuff. Like
Mhm.
they have genre stuff. They have your comedies. I think they had some horror stuff like we discussed. Durgy went through the whole list when we first discussed the show, but
Yeah.
the streaming service. But it's definitely new and interesting. If they get traction, it can really blow up, I think. But it has to start somewhere, and it's
Mhm.
going to start April 6th. So hopefully that free trial entices a lot of people. But do you think it will? Like I think I might get the free trial just to see what it's all about. But I don't know. I just don't like watching stuff on my phone, and that's what it's made for. So it it throws me off, and it kind of makes me break my own laws. But we'll see how it goes. I'm guessing that you're going to give it a shot, Jackson.
I watch everything on my phone. I watched The Godfather the first time on my
Oh my
cell phone.
gosh.
I did.
Oh, yeah, I
And
remember you saying that.
I will
Uh,
take any quality as long as I get to watch something. And I know that's probably not, I prefer quantity over quality when it comes to my content. I want all of it available all the time. That's why I prefer my cell phone. But people consume content differently. I could see myself subscribing to it long term if it's got some good stuff on it.
Definitely. Yeah, well, I'll see how I wonder how much it is per month.
I think it was
I
like
think it might be
$3.
yeah,
It,
$3 or something, pocket change. It's so if it does have quality stuff,
oh,
it could easily
$5 a month with ads, $8
5
without.
month of both ads. That's still not bad.
It's still not bad. It's a little
Yeah,
pricier
it's
than
still
I
not
thought it
bad.
was, but still not bad.
Definitely.
All right, what do we got next?
Something else that is definitely much better than bad is Michael Giacchino, because he's a great composer. He's done everything. He's done Pixar films. He's done Marvel films. Ev- he's done even a Star Wars film. He's
Yeah.
composed for all of them, and he's composing for the new Batman film called The Batman. And he's recently said that he has total freedom when writing the score for the film. And I like going off the show notes. I've personally talked to many composers, uh, arrangers, and they want their freedom. And usually, like directors, they usually don't get involved with composers or anything like that. They usually let them do their own thing. They're in their own bubble. They're in the studio just writing their music, composing their music. And I'm interested, like when I first found this article, I was interested to see what what more freedom could they give him for this score. But we'll discuss that. And he says that and one quote that he said is that he said, "I felt total freedom to do whatever I want." Matt always agreed, "This is our Batman. This is our vision." In the same way that I always loved, what I still love about Batman comics and graphic novels is that each of these artists, each of these authors take their own crack at what they want this to be. It's our version of Batman. So whatever you heard before, all the music from Danny Elfman, from the Tim Burton Batman with Michael Keaton, the Christian Bale Batman with Hans Zimmer. This is a new Batman, a new sound, a new look. So this is carrying over with that. And yeah, so what do you think, Jackson? Are you glad that we're getting a new sound complementing the new look with our Batman?
Yeah, I mean the only thing that comes to mind is, and for a lot of people, is probably Hans Zimmer's score. It's very good for
Oh yeah,
the Nolan Dark Knight
yeah,
trilogy. But yeah, that's true. Batman's had a lot of really distinct musical cues. I mean, you think back to, I can remember the Michael Keaton Batman film with who directed that? Was that Tim Burton? Yeah,
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 yeah.
and
The
it
original,
was
yeah.
yeah, and I remember those cues very well. Some video game cues are pretty iconic for Batman. But yeah, there's no one like defining concept. Like for Superman, I feel like his cues have to be really high key and really, you know, really exhilarating. But I don't know. it's tough to say. If it were a lesser composer, I would be a little more concerned about the idea of total freedom, just because to me the idea of total freedom can sometimes mean a lack of cohesiveness across the film as well as the score. But I mean, oh my gosh, Michael Giacchino,
Yeah, it's
he's done
Italian.
he's done so many movies across so many genres,
It's
incredible
insane.
scores.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I bet if he didn't
he
even
did
see
Rogue
the
One.
movie, he could
He
make
did
something
the
incredible.
last two Spider-Man films. He's
Yeah,
done the shoot. Yeah, he's done. I'm pretty sure he did both Incredible films, The Incredibles. Uh,
he's done Ratatouille.
he
Like he's
did.
done a
He
ton.
did all the new. Not Plan. He did the
Jura-
Plan of the Apes, I think. Yeah, he did Jurassic.
and Jurassic World. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Mostly, he did like a lot of high budget films. He doesn't really do low budget indie stuff. He does all high budget stuff that's going to stay in theaters, like the Batman. So, and we already got a taste of his music from the teaser concept footage for uh, what, Robert Pattinson's Batman,
yeah,
the red tinted video, and it sounds very like metallic. That's how
yeah.
I would describe it. And I don't know, it's like calculated, very metallic, and it's extremely different from anything I've ever heard of from Batman. Uh, just the one piece of music that stays with me from the Hans Zimmer music is I think it's called a dog chasing. It's something chasing dogs. I think it's called the
Oh,
one piece of music.
yeah, it's one of Joker's cues. Yeah,
Yeah,
Joker's got some iconic cues in that movie.
from that
Really.
film, and then
Yeah,
just the opening music for the Batman in Michael Keaton's version of the character. I know it personally from the Lego Batman. Like that's how the game opens, but it's also
yeah.
they just stole that from the original Tim Burton film. So the
Gotta love
music
the
is a
Lego
huge part
Batman
of
series.
Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music is a huge part of Batman, and Michael Giacchino is a great choice. Oh, and he recently did Jojo Rabbit too, and
Oh,
but Jojo Rabbit doesn't have like a bunch of music.
that's
Like
true.
he like uh yeah, it doesn't have a bunch of like music really that's memorable, and I was surprised it was nominated for best music at the Oscars. But uh, and also on a side note is that Michael Giacchino, he directed a short film called Monster Challenge starring Patton Oswalt.
Really?
And yeah, that's what when researching this, I found that out. And uh, like go check that out if you have time over your coronavirus vacation. Check out his short film. I'm kind of confused to why he made it, but
Oh, this
it's
looks
there.
hysterical.
I love Patton Oswalt, the dude from King of Queens. Have you ever seen him? He's in Young Adult. He's in a bunch of offbeat, dark dramas, comedies. He's a comedian himself.
He's
He's a
the
well-known guy.
main character from Ratatouille. He's the rat.
Yeah, yeah. He voices the rat in Ratatouille.
His magnum opus role, if you will, in my opinion.
Definitely. Uh, would you say that's your favorite Pixar film, Jackson?
I think in that era, I
In that
found
order?
some of my favorites: Ratatouille, Wally. Those are the ones that I really remember distinctly, just because they were so unique compared to what had come before. I feel like every
Yeah.
Pixar film kind of breaks the mold, but yeah. Now Ratatouille might be my favorite one, just because of it's just so unique in the way it's constructed. And I love stories about just like passion and perseverance and a discipline. So I really enjoyed that one a lot. A lot of Pixar films I enjoy, but some of them are a little too like coming of age for me. I'm not a big fan of
Yeah.
coming of age stories. So
That seems
that
like a continuous theme,
yeah,
especially since they're not really centered towards kids, but that's a universal theme, really. So, but
yeah,
it's seen a lot through Pixar films.
yeah,
So
I can
I
understand that.
understand. I understand that critique.
But I mean, this
But
I think we're in
yeah,
good hands with Michael Giacchino uh, for this score. I mean, it's kind of hard. I feel like he could make anything, and at least fine, but I think he'll knock it out of the park. I really hope he does, because he's
Yeah.
managed to make some really distinct scores.
Yeah, me too. I just hope it's notable and poignant, that it stays with
Mhm.
me, because like at least with a bunch of his music, I don't really revisit it. Like with Tim Burton and Hans Zimmer, like almost everything they do, I listen to like daily. Like a lot of their stuff, at least a few of their songs, I listen to. But uh, Giacchino, like with all the Oscar films, I always listen to all the music that complements their films. But so I listen to Jojo Rabbit a lot during Oscar season, but I can't really remember much of his songs. But from what I heard from the test footage with Robert Pattinson, it does sound like very unique music, which is what will stick with me. So hopefully that's right.
Yeah.
Uh, so
What do we got
we're
now?
going to move on to our next subject, and that is Netflix and what they're doing to support the workers who are being sidelined by coronavirus.
We got a
And
couple
they
of
have
stories coming up here.
yeah, a couple of those stories, yeah. And they have established a $100 million relief fund to help industry workers who have lost their jobs amid the industry-wide shutdown stemming from the coronavirus. The streaming service's chief content officer, Ted Sarandos, made the announcement, which surely came to as a relief to many out-of-work laborers in the industry.
Right.
Trade reports have indicated that at least 120,000 people are expected to be affected by the current global pandemic, which has far-reaching consequences beyond Los Angeles itself, which where Netflix is based. Uh, a quote from him is he said, "quote Most of the fund will go towards support for the hardest hit workers on our own productions around the world. We're in the process of working out exactly what this means, production by production. This is in addition to the 2 weeks pay we've already committed to the crew and cast on productions where we're forced to suspend last week." From this quote alone, Jackson, what do you think? Are you surprised that Netflix is being this um, upfront and helping their workers? Because there's a bunch of other production companies that I haven't heard this publicly come out, but it's nice to see that Netflix has let the public know what they're doing, at least.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's a good show of goodwill, but Netflix is in a position where they're able to do that. I mean, they are continuously bringing in revenue, and they have enough original content backed up that they can continue to release things throughout the year that are already completed, or at least near enough to completion to put out. So, everybody has been affected, but Netflix is in a unique situation to continue to make money even at a more rapid pace than they were earlier. But I think it's interesting to note. I initially thought this was $100 million being spread out to productions around the world, but it's
Yeah,
their productions around the world, which isn't bad. I think
which makes sense.
it makes sense that they want to help their own.
Yeah.
But I do want to note that at least they mentioned some portion of the money is going to productions outside of Netflix productions, which is nice. I mean, they didn't have to do that, but it seems only right for them to take that step.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
excited for
I
them to
agree with
do
that.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I'm personally surprised because you always hear all the time Netflix is uh, $20,000 billion in debt, but this shows I'm not sure the exact number, but they are in debt by like 10 million or something. But this shows that they have the generosity and the ability to provide that to their workers right now, who
yeah,
they had to suspend production because some like the US says don't have more than 10 people in a group. When you film something, you have to have like at their scale of what Netflix is making, you have to have at least like for their smallest projects, you probably have at least 15, 20 people
I mean,
on a
even at our
project
scale,
filming.
Sam. I mean, think about it. The
Yeah.
productions you've been on,
Yeah.
could you possibly pull off some of those with only limited 9 people. That's nuts.
Uh,
It would be
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, true.
Think about
Yeah,
it.
it would be.
A couple actors, a director, you're already up to like 4 people probably. That's tough. That's tough to work around even on a
Well, yeah, you were
zero
just about to go
budget.
into production.
That's
You were gonna
true.
have how many people were you gonna have on set, Jackson?
Probably
Like at
two
one time,
dozen, probably
2000? Yeah,
20 at
at
any
least,
given
yeah.
time. Yeah. So, I mean,
So
we were already
that breaks
concerned
some
because of
rules right
that.
there.
Yeah. So it's definitely tough to see. Yeah, productions everywhere are suspended. So, well, I mean, I know Netflix employees are going to fare just fine through this, at least compared to the rest of the entertainment industry. But I love to see how it'd be nice to see other companies step up and be able to do this as well. I doubt we'll see a lot of Hollywood studios step up and say, hey, Lionsgate is going to give out this much money, or Disney has also stepped up and is continuing to pay their employees for the foreseeable future. So that's another big one. So these big companies that are able to do so, they are taking the time to. Walmart employees are getting a higher hourly wage, but like we said, it's those middle and low employee count company, not global corporations, just maybe regional businesses that are hit the hardest by this, because not only do they not have the ability to stay open, they don't have the means to continue to pay their employees. So I think we'll see a lot of production companies, smaller ones, probably not weather the storm very well. I wouldn't be surprised if on a lot of Wikipedia pages for production companies we see, shut down, and then we see that they were closed because of the coronavirus. I think that'll be a common thing to see.
Yeah, I agree. The one what's the production company that made Vice? They've already been in a lot of trouble. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Like the brand
No,
Vice, or you mean
no,
the
no, no, the Dick Cheney film.
is that
They,
Plan B Entertainment?
no, well, yeah, I was thinking of the
The
who
other
dist who distributed that film.
did
One
distribute
second. No, Annapurna. Annapurna did.
Vice. Man, they are
Annapurna.
already in a ton of trouble.
Yeah, yeah, they're in a ton of trouble, and this could probably be the end of them, honestly, and which is disappointing because in my mind, at least, they're kind of like A24 in my mind, but they're at least successful, and they make a lot riskier decisions, and they try to do more high budget films
Hmm.
instead of like A24 doing low budget, making their budget back, like usually making their budget back at least. Uh, Annapurna is much more riskier with what they fund, and
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes they lose a lot of money. So
a lot
this
of time.
could possibly be the end for them.
Yeah, I mean,
But
they already weren't in a good financial. We already reported on that weeks ago, but yeah, companies like Annapurna could be in big trouble.
yeah, uh, and moving on to I a new like as I alluded to earlier, there's a film that was supposed to release in April, and it's going directly to Netflix now. Now that they've acquired the rights, and this has happened many times before, but never for an event like coronavirus. Like we've seen films like the Cloverfield Paradox go directly to Netflix, and it
Hmm.
was announced like a day before at the Super Bowl. This film's going to be released on Netflix tonight, or they said something like that, which is insane, and it got a bunch of views just for that. But it's a Universal film. It was supposed to be released in theaters. That's what everyone thought, but it was released directly on Netflix. But they're doing this for another film, and it's called Lovebirds. And we're supposed to star. It is starring Cam, Camille
I know how to
Nanjiani.
pronounce this one.
Okay, go
Uh,
ahead. Take it
Kumail
from me.
Nanjiani.
Camille Nanjiani and Issa Rae. They're starring in this a rom com film. It was supposed to release theatrically April 3rd, with several other titles who have been pulled from theaters. But this one has been thrown at Netflix, and they're keeping it, and it's gonna be streaming at a later announced date. The streaming, we don't know when exactly it's going to be streaming, but Netflix has the rights to it now, and they're going to release it whenever they feel fit and whenever they think they can get the most views out of it. The film, directed by Michael Showalter, stars Camille Nanjiani and Issa Rae as a couple who experienced a defining moment in their relationship when they are unintentionally embroiled in a murder mystery. So the Lovebirds, I want to get that from the title. So it sounds like
Yeah,
a
right,
somewhat
right.
entertaining rom-com film. It reminds me of Game Night in a way, murder mystery.
Does have that game night vibe.
Yeah, and yeah, this is just interesting. Do would this have you run into the theaters if you knew the synopsis, Jackson? If
No,
it was released in theaters?
it wouldn't. I mean, I was more excited to see The Big Sick than I was to see this, and I actually never ended up seeing that one, but I was paying attention to that one a lot more because I was hearing so much good word of mouth about how good the writing was, and I think it even got a uh if I'm not mistaken, I think it got an Oscar nomination for best original screenplay, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong on that.
it was nominated for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
It
it
might have
was
been
one.
Best Picture too, I think. Honestly, I think it might
I,
have been Best
I
Picture.
don't think so, but
Let me look this up now.
The Big Sick was one of those surprise hits from the year, and it really cemented Kumail Nanjiani as a prominent writer and auteur in the industry because he was starred in it and he wrote it. I assume he wrote this one. I could be wrong, but I
Okay,
wouldn't be
you're right. It
surprised.
was just Best Original Screenplay, but
Oh, I
I
see.
thought it had a little bit more. But you're right. Congrats.
Which is still a big accolade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a huge.
But I don't think I'm as excited for this one. I haven't seen a trailer, but I think that streaming works perfectly for this. This type of comedy, romance does great money on streaming because it's something that people, like we've talked about, they might not be willing to spend the evening to go see it unless you're on date night, but you would be willing to go see it on any given evening in. And this seems like that perfect movie. Like we've seen Adam Sandler rom-coms do amazing on Netflix over and over again. I really wouldn't be surprised if a Kumail Nanjiani, rom-com does just as well. People who like The Big Sick or people who like his comedy specials, I think they'll find a lot to love. I do want to point out, I think Kumail Nanjiani is taking a slightly different role as an actor because I was in a Walgreens and I saw him on the cover of Men's Health with these just like enormous biceps. Apparently, he's
Yeah.
been working out. I remember
Do
him
you know
as the.
why? Do you know why he's working out, Jackson?
Is it for this movie?
No. It's for the Eternals, the
Oh,
Marvel film. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
How about that? But
And
it was just so
yeah, it's
funny
a
to me
huge
to
year
see.
for him. So this is a career defining year for him. So we'll see how he does, and if he can translate to uh, the smaller rom com scene and also the huge action films that are in the mainstream right now. Because the last film that I personally remember him being in was Stuber, that I did not see with
Yeah.
Dave Bautista, and that film failed at the box office. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure it
Yeah,
lost money.
it wasn't as well received. I heard it was
Yeah. So, are you guys looking to forward to Camille Namjani this year? In the comments, his huge mainstream. Like, who knows if the Eternals will release in theaters at this point? But I'm pretty sure it's supposed to release in August, or it's much later in the year. But as the year's going right now, anything could happen. We could have the Plague Part Two can come back, the Black
correct.
Plague. Who knows? Anything could happen anymore. So, are you looking forward to the Eternals, the Lovebirds? Like, I'll give it a shot if it's on Netflix. Like, there's a they like just looking at Netflix. Like last night, I was just gonna watch. They have every Pierce Brosnan like James Bond film on Netflix. I was gonna start watching his first one and then go down the row each night, but I saw the platform, and that was an awesome foreign language film that I was looking forward to. I just saw it on there. I had to watch it. So if you're just in the comments, let us know if you're looking forward to Camille Namjiani this year and his varying genre career. But we'll see how that goes. But uh, yeah, do you see this being more financially successful as well for the Lovebirds? Like, do you think it's gonna get more eyes on it than if it was just gonna release in the theater like any other year?
Yes.
Jackson, you do? Okay.
From what
And what
people
more people?
it's the barrier to entry thing. It's the sunk cost fallacy. It's people are thinking in their head, I've already bought Netflix. So I might as well take a chance on more movies I might not like because I'm not losing anything as a result. You've already crossed that barrier to entry, so people are willing to expand their horizons. There are movies that I would have never ever paid for in a million years that I've seen on Netflix that I turned out, liking, whether it's, some odd rom-com or some dumb Adam Sandler movie, things that, you know, you just are willing to invest your time in it and check it out because it's so easy. You could turn it off anytime. You didn't pay any money. You're sitting in your house. There's no risk associated with it. Whereas with a theater, you're risking your entire evening and a lot of money when you boil it down. So that's why
Definitely.
these mid-tier comedies can go either way. So I think that it works a lot better in the streaming platform. I think a lot more people are going to watch this movie as a result. I'm not even really sure why they continue to do the theater model. They're trying to get that like date night crowd kind of thing. That's kind of who it's
Yeah,
perfect for.
yeah. I don't see it being successful. Like it's a like that's how we say when we had Jeremy Herbert on the show, our last studio show, he was saying just theaters are the two extremes. They're either the films either cost 200 million to make or cost like 5 million.
Hmm.
There's no mid-tier films really released in theaters anymore. It's we have the small budget the last film that cost $5 million. I forget what I saw. Like a cheap film like Knives Out. That's a relatively cheap film to make.
Or Lighthouse, yeah.
Lighthouse, yeah, too. And those films like Lighthouse, it's hard for that film not to be successful because it was made on such a low budget that it's going to have its niche audience that's going to go support it no matter what. But also we have the 300 million dollar films like Endgame that they're going to make $2 million in a snap. So
Yeah.
that can happen.
Nice transition.
So,
I like that.
oh yeah, great.
In a
But
snap.
something else that hopefully happens in a snap is the death of coronavirus. But who knows what's going to happen? And some people that are trying to make that happen quick or are trying to prevent it from growing out of hand are costume designers, the Costume Designers Guild in LA and the whole country of the United States, because they are sewing uh, breathing masks for healthcare facilities right now. And the initiative addresses the enormous shortage of protective gear that doctors and nurses rely upon to treat individuals with coronavirus symptoms. So, and like those are some items that people are asking for right now, like gloves, max. I can't say the word. Just breathing, facial wear. I'll say that. I
Yeah.
can't say. I can't say that word. SKs. Uh, in response to the coronavirus pandemic, which has overwhelmed the world healthcare industry and resulted in some hospitals coming up short of protective facial gear for its workers, the costume design industry has come forward to help in a crucial way. And the Hollywood Customers Local and the Costume Designers Guild are leading an effort through which its members will sew protective facial gear for immediate distribution to healthcare facilities. The effort addresses the enormous shortage of facial gear, gloves, and additional protective gear that doctors and other health care workers rely upon as they treat individuals with coronavirus symptoms. Uh, in a letter that the leader of MPEG, the leader of this group, wrote, she said, if any of you sew or want to volunteer to deliver the facial gear, please let us know and we will put you in touch with those coordinating. So they're coming off very open and very direct to their constituents to try to just bring as much help to this cause and try to create as much as they can for the people that they need to help. And uh, another thing that a guild member said, uh, quote, they are isolated in their rooms without any group activities or meals. And so she's just addressing that there's not much that they can do right now other than help create these facial gear to create for those in need. Uh, Jackson, is there any way else that you see film professionals like this is just one way that the costume side of the film industry is helping those in need right now. Do you see any way else that film professionals can contribute to dealing with the ongoing pandemic right now? Like,
Well,
I don't know what.
there's no other
Yeah,
way I can think of that deals directly with helping in a treatment sense, but supporting other members of the film community during this time is really important. If you are doing if there's any way that you can help other people, or just let other people know that they're not alone with their struggles. I'm on a couple different Facebook groups that deal with entertainment and people who work in the industry, whether it's Cleveland specific or nationally. And it seems like they're providing a lot of resources to that people, they're all registering for unemployment together, or they're all letting people know about different areas of federal money or grant money that's available through different organizations that they can use to help weather this time. But on one hand, we have all the people who are getting sick, and then we have all the people who are out of work because they can't risk getting sick or getting other people sick. So if you can't directly help the people who are ill, you can do your part as a citizen to make sure that you don't exacerbate the problem by social distancing and by practicing good hygiene and following the government regulations. But on the flip side of that, finding ways to help people who are out of work, and that could be little things that can just be buying a few extra things at the grocery store for your neighbors, but anything that you can do to help keep your communities together and to make sure that everyone's taken care of is a good thing. I'm a part of my neighborhoods. We have like a chat room app that we use for people in my neighborhood, and we just communicate with each other about older residents in the area who might need some help with groceries and things like that. And I'm looking to get more involved with that because I mean, what else are we going to do? We're just sitting at our houses all day. And
watching Netflix.
exactly. The least we could do is reach out and make sure the people around us are okay through this. Everybody's struggling, everybody's going to lose money and have hard times, but at least making sure that everyone has the necessities that they need to stay healthy and to kind of weather this whole thing. So, if you can't help directly with the people who are sick, help with the people who are affected by the virus in other ways. But most of all, just make sure that you're safe as well. That's probably most important.
Definitely. So help other people out, but make sure you yourself is safe as well while you're doing it.
Hmm.
Uh, that's essentially all we have on the show notes for today. I was expecting to have Durgy on. He didn't tell me why he didn't show up. I apologize to everyone out there who wanted him on.
All
Uh,
the people who are here for Durgy, they left in the first 5 minutes. They're like,
yeah, all
man,
the
Durgy's not
Durgy
on.
fanboys. I know. He's the probably most uh, well liked out of
Oh,
all three of us.
definitely,
But
definitely.
that's just how it goes sometimes. He comes and he goes, and he went today. So, but there's no trailers that release smartly because there's no reason to really because nothing's going to release theatrically in the near future.
Yeah.
Nothing's releasing this week that I know of streaming wise. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff coming out like within the next week, but I couldn't find like a great list to tell you guys. But do you have any recommendations for our audience right now to anything they can watch? Like you said, the top of the show, you said the Tiger King
Yeah,
was
I would
something to look
recommend
forward
checking
to.
that out. I'll be checking that out as well. I would recommend just watching, that movie, that old movie that you really don't know that you want to watch, but you've always thought, man, should probably see that. Everyone says it's a classic. Go watch that movie. Seriously.
What's
There's
one
a
of
lot.
those? Name them one, Jackson. They need
What
some guidance here.
I think if you haven't seen, one of my favorite old movies that I really thought I wouldn't like because I'm not a fan of movies with a lot of like, sometimes old movies don't hold up as well, but one classic that I really think is so incredible even today is Apocalypse Now, which I think is available on Netflix if I'm not mistaken. If it's not, I'm sure you can find it through Hulu or buy it for a couple bucks on YouTube. But man, if you're looking for a movie that is totally unlike something you've ever seen before. I think Apocalypse Now is it. I really didn't know what it was about going into it. And if you haven't gotten a chance to see it, just try the first 15 minutes to see if you get hooked by the idea. And I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a really fascinating film and it holds up really well. What about you, Sam?
Well, like I said, the platform, I checked that out. It's a very different film. Unless you've seen Snowpiercer, I don't think you've ever seen anything quite like it. And even towards the end, it's a pretty quick watch, 93 minutes. Make sure it's on Netflix, so make sure you put it in, like change it to Spanish and then put the subtitles on because that's how it's meant to be seen. Netflix
Mhm.
just screws it up. A lot of my friends have been watching Spencer Confidential, which is the Mark Wahlberg film with like Post Malone in it. It's on Netflix as well. Uh, I haven't seen it. It's directed by Peter Berg, and he's done his previous like last three films with him. Uh, and so that's one. I'm just going through the first few films on Netflix I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
Netflix has a bunch of great ones right now, but the Tiger King. So that's a series, though. I thought you meant that was a TV show, but
Well,
that is a series.
it's kind of like a mini series documentary, sort of
Okay,
like how Making a Murderer was, but I think it's going to be a
okay,
lot shorter. I think it's only 7 episodes.
okay.
If
Yeah,
you're
I'm looking
looking
forward to. Yeah, go ahead.
I will say if you're looking for something a little more lighthearted, if you're like, I don't really want to get into like Apocalypse Now or something super, I mean, honestly, if you're already feeling pretty anxious about what's going on outside in the world, maybe Apocalypse Now isn't the best recommendation. If you need something just to throw on that'll make you laugh, I would check out Nathan for You on Hulu.
That's my show, Jackson. I've seen every episode so many times.
I,
I've seen his earlier stuff.
yeah.
Nathan has your back. I think that's what it's called.
So do
I,
you so do you concur? Do you think that would be a
oh,
good one?
that's the best type of comedy there is.
Oh
Nathan
yeah.
for you, and oh my gosh, he's the best. I've been watching him since I was like when the show first came out. And, oh my gosh, he's the best. He's the best at deadpan comedy. But
He's so
that's
good.
about all we have for the show today, everyone. Uh, like we've been talking about, just keep watching everything on Netflix and all the other. Watch Parasite if you haven't seen it yet. Try to find it. That's a great. It's gonna come on Hulu soon. I'm pretty sure
I hope
as
so.
well. So try to watch Parasite if you haven't seen it. Uh, uh yeah, the like all the films that are releasing VOD from the theaters, give them a shot. Support the production companies that put those out because even though they're coming out on VOD, I'm sure they're still going to lose millions on those films. They're just going to make something. They're making pocket change back from releasing them on VOD.
I
I
agree.
think, but it's something. So if you can support the theaters, give them a shot. I I forget what's one. There's not really one, I think, that's releasing on VOD that I'm really excited about. Like, I wanted to see The Hunt, but I don't think I would pay $20 for it. If it was released on a streaming platform, I would give it a shot and give it a few bucks. But is there anything that would one theater, not one theater, one film that released VOD that you would put up that $20 for, Jackson?
I don't think so as of right now. Anything short of like
Yeah,
an event movie like Wonder Woman, but
yeah,
I'm gonna keep my eyes on what gets put out on VOD because I assume that list is gonna get it's gonna be updated pretty regularly with films that were gonna release in theaters but now are moving to streaming a lot earlier than expected. So I would take advantage of that, and I would, the big movies that you wanted to see in theaters, I would take the opportunity to check them out in your home. It's better than not seeing them at all, right?
yeah, definitely. So this is Film Week for this week, right here, Film Week. Oh, yeah, there it is.
There you go.
Number 5. I follow the Film Week Twitter. Here we are. We're gonna finish out the semester. Me, Jackson, and whenever Durkee feels like showing up, we'll be here for you
Yep.
at 7:30 on Mondays. This is our permanent time for the time being. It seems like it works for everyone that's here. I'll try to. I'm gonna try to upload the podcast still. Somehow I'll try to figure it out, but we'll try our best. Uh, anything from you, Jackson, when we close out? Do you want to tell our audience anything?
Nope. Just stay safe. Watch some movies. Call your mom.
Yeah, make sure your mom's healthy, and we'll see you next week on Film Week, everyone.
See you guys.
Catch you then. Bye.